So hi everybody, it's T Falcon Napier. Welcome to the Oracle of the Self. This is our weekly coaching program. I do believe this is week number 24. And we really have had some very interesting conversations in the past couple of sessions, but we haven't really attacked the material that I had planned on covering during those sessions. So I was thinking I'm going to give it the old college try and see if I can get through any of this core material. That being said, if you guys have any questions, comments, thoughts, I always pay attention to where people find their attention. So you feel free to chime in with anything you'd like to say.
Well,
or
Godspeed.
Thank you, thank you. And so what we've been talking about last week around was, well, actually, we were supposed to talk about the four aspects of control, this particular little exercise I gave you guys to do. But just as a reminder, where this fits in to the past is something I wanted to just touch on for a moment. Even before I do it, recognize that if you are ever making a decision or need to make a decision, you don't need to walk the whole path of self-discovery. You might say, I'm just going to fill out this four aspects of control thing and let me get my thoughts, arranged around that. So we did our best as we designed our tools and our resource materials for our students to make sure that things were very portable and very practical in how they could be applied. So don't think like you got to do the whole path walk in order to get any benefit out of what you're learning here. Just think about, what do you want to know about? And so, for example, if you've been thinking about making some sort of a change, as far as whatever the change is concerned, you might have spent a whole lot of time talking about what you wanted to gain and even what you might want to lose, but you haven't moved forward. Well, why haven't you moved forward? Maybe there's something happening in these bottom two quadrants, something you don't want to gain or something you don't want to lose that just happens to be part of the bargain. In which case, being aware of that, so you can decide, is it worth paying the price? Downstairs is the price, upstairs is the outcome. Is it worth paying the price in order to get the outcome? It's easier to have that discussion with oneself when you can actually look at it a little bit and see what's going on. So think of this as being a mirror that's reflecting these four different ways that you could be thinking about a particular situation. Okay, questions, comments, thoughts about that? Or so far, so good?
Which one is the price and which one is the outcome?
The two on the bottom tend to be the price.
Okay.
Because you think about that, it's like, what do you want? So this is the outcome. I want to gain these things and I want to get rid of these things. So whether you're building a house or cleaning a house, there's things you want to gain, there's things that you want to lose. So the top part are whatever the outcomes happen to be. And by the way, because this is about control, these are some sort of outcomes that, at least to a reasonable degree, you think are going to help you gain and maintain control. But when you look at the stuff on the bottom, these tend to be the costs that you have to be willing to pay, or at least be aware of, because every time you're considering making a change, there are probably things about that situation that you don't want to gain. Maybe you don't want more responsibility. You don't want more disruption. You don't want more this. You don't want more that. So yeah, I want these outcomes, but in order to get these outcomes, I don't want to gain the following things, and I don't want to lose the following things. Well, maybe, just maybe, for you to get the outcome you want, there has to be something that you're going to gain that you really didn't want, and or something that you're going to lose that you didn't really want to lose. And by the way, very commonly, these are resources we tend to hold rather practical. I don't want to lose a lot of time. I don't want to lose a lot of money. I don't want to lose a lot of whatever resource you might hold near and dear. So think of the two at the bottom as being the potential costs that have to be balanced against whatever it is you think you're going to gain. All right.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's why and to me, that's why you need to fill the whole thing out, because if you just do the top half, I want to gain this and I want to lose this, and then you go back to the path, you go marching down the yellow brick road, well, sooner or later, you're going to get confronted with a harsh reality that there's a price tag. And had you just thought about that price tag in advance, you might have chosen not to go down that path, or you might have gone down it in a different way. So Yeah, anyway.
Right.
Or it might just stop you too. I
Well,
mean, you might,
yeah, right. You might just go like, well, I'm not going to do that.
screw that.
Yeah, I'll give you guys an example of this, and this is the one that I use almost every time I teach this section in normal speed. I say, so as an example, as far as putting a deck on the side of our house is concerned, so this is when we lived in North Carolina, our house was situated in such a way that the lake view was actually off of the side of the house. And so, unless we went out on this little tiny porch on the side, you really wouldn't see the lake. And, you know, if you went wandering around, you could, at least from the house, you weren't going to see it. So we said, this is a perfect place for a deck. Not only is it going to give us the lake view, but that side of the house also had a pretty severe slope. So the land that was there wasn't really useful for anything else other than being a slope. And so we thought this is a perfect location to build a deck, a nice big deck, in fact. And so we put this whole thing together. Well, as far as putting a deck on our house is concerned, we want to gain this. So entertainment, outdoor entertainment space, a view of the lake. You know, we rattle off a whole bunch of things that we hear. And we want to lose that feeling that we were at the lake and not on the lake. We wanted to lose that feeling that we don't have anywhere outside to entertain. So we fleshed out the things we didn't want to lose, but we said we also don't want to gain. And this is where we said we don't want to gain a lot of upkeep and maintenance. We don't want to gain a lot of hassles getting building permits and all that sort of stuff put through. And we were part of an HOA. We didn't want to gain a whole lot of HOA problems. We also didn't want to lose a lot of money because we were just thinking like, well, there's other things we'd rather be doing to the house than putting this deck on. And we fleshed out a few more things.
Just put a window.
Well, yeah, and so there were a couple of windows. So point is, this was our whole kind of situation. Now, we were in fact pretty much willing to pay the price down below because we wanted to gain the things we wanted to gain. That's what it would seem like. However, we never put the deck on the side of the house. Well, why is that? It's because that doing this and doing this well in and of itself does not guarantee any sort of movement forward. It might have completed the intellectual exercise, but that doesn't mean that you have sufficient tension to follow through and needs to be done. And so I can say to you that many times we talk to builders, and we've had builders on many occasions tell us, well, we can give you everything you want. So everything you want to gain, we can give you, and everything you want to lose, we can make sure you don't have to deal with that anymore. And these things that you don't want to gain, we can build it in such a way that there's not maintenance. And we've worked with the HOA, we've gotten the building permits, so you don't need to worry about gaining things you don't want to gain. And as far as not wanting what you don't want to lose, well, when it comes to money, anything that you spend on the deck is actually probably going to add more value to the house because you're giving it more, outside activity, blah, 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 blah. They met all four of these, all four requirements. Every single item could be checked off and said, yep, 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 yep. That way of moving forward is perfect in every way. But we didn't follow through and do it. And we didn't follow through and do it simply because we never hit our threshold of activation. We never found our situation troublesome enough to bother doing anything definitive to change it. We were busy enough outside with gardening and everything else that's going on that we never really even went out and sat on the little side porch, let alone thought we would make good use of a full-size deck or whatever. And so as we work our way through this, I want you to understand that this is an exercise in helping you understand how control is playing out inside of this scenario. Don't think that just because you do a great job with these four quadrants that it guarantees forward movement. It doesn't. You still have to have enough tension. Mind you, it's a gigantic step in the right direction. But if you're in the situation, everything is perfect and you're still not moving forward, we need to return to that level of tension to figure out what's really going on.
So would you use this before you walk the path?
Nope. So let's go back to that just a second. So this whole four aspects of control is really how we do a deeper dive into the desired situation, because in order for that desired situation to be complete, I have to make sure that I say that whenever it comes to anything that I desire, there are things I want to gain, there are things I want to lose, there are things I don't want to gain, and there are things that I don't want to lose. And so when it comes to what makes something desired, a desired situation, it's got to be a deeper discussion about all four of those. And so it fits into the path in the green step.
Okay. And I remember your definition. I really appreciated that when I was first introduced to this about the word control, because I remember you specifically said it's not like this authoritarian kind of thing, but it's like to regulate, right?
Yeah.
Like to
The
control the temperature in the room. You have
exactly.
to regulate a thermostat.
Right. And for people who have any kind of a background in chemistry, probably the best verb of all would be titrate.
Mm,
So, because you're
okay.
trying to deliver just the right amount of whatever the reagent is in order to get the reaction that you're looking for. And so we not only do we want to pay attention, not only do we want to look at control, we want just enough tension, just enough control, never too much, never too little, just the right amount. And that's what titrating comes into play. For those of you who don't remember where you might have learned the word titrate, let me take you back to grade school science class. And you were studying acids and bases. And they gave you a little bit of a solution, and they gave you, pardon me, a reagent called phenolphthalein. If you put a drop of phenolphthalein into a basic solution, it would immediately turn red. And then they would say, now here's some lemon juice. Start putting in drops of lemon juice, which is an acid, to bring it out of the acidic range, or out of the alkaline range and into the acidic range. And so you would get it to a point where you could put in enough lemon juice and it would go clear again. And then you could put in more, whatever the base part of the solution would be. So maybe it was, I don't know, some baking soda or whatever you might have been using, doesn't really matter. But some kind of starch. Anyway, and it would go red again with, because the phenolphthalein was still in there. And you got to this point of perfect titration where one drop of ammonia would make it basic, and then they would turn red, and one drop of lemon juice would reverse it back to acidic or back into neutral, and it would be gone. So that perfect little amount being introduced in just the perfect time, that's what titration is really all about. So when it comes to you managing your own life, you really do want to think about how titration applies to how you end up being the best version of you. So you should be titrating the amount of fluid that you drink in a day, just enough, not too much, not too little. Why not too much? Because then you're going to throw your electrolytes into a problem. And so, oh, maybe you should be taking some supplements. Well, you can apply titration to supplements, just enough, never too much. You could do it with food. You can do it with exercise. You can do it with sleep. No matter what that ingredient happens to be that contributes to the life that you have, you want to develop enough of a sense of the power of that ingredient that you are only introducing the right amount at the right time for you to end up with the response you're actually looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, in fact, medicine's built on that idea, and that's why I always look for. I call it MED, which is minimum effective doses.
Mhm.
So, they start you out typically with the minimum because the maximum could kill you.
Yeah.
So you want the minimum that will give you the maximum effect, and that's the same thing you
Yep,
just
all
described.
about figuring out what that perfect little amount happens to be. So that's what we are trying to do here. Now, again, when we're at this green step, it may very well be that the reason why we're ultimately going to find struggle in following through on it is because there are other obstacles that might not have made the list. So let's talk for just a second about what your homework was, and then we'll get into how these obstacles are going to appear. By the way, these things that are down on the bottom, these price tags, they could actually form obstacles or serve in form of obstacles, but they could also be outright deal breakers. Like Anju was saying earlier, maybe you just stop because you go like, oh no, I absolutely don't want to gain that, and I absolutely don't want to lose that. Those are deal breakers, in which case I'm just going to stop before I invest any further in whatever is going on. All right, so I did suggest that you guys play with this a little bit. Did any of you have an opportunity to do it as homework or to at least think about how it plays itself out in life? Anybody?
Yeah, we did.
Anything you want to share with us about that experience? In what way was it useful or?
I forgot my notebook.
Okay. You feel free to wing it. So yeah, but again, I just want to make sure that people have an opportunity to kind of apply this in a real world situation because it is pretty easy. But then sometimes people give it too much thought, and they realize that a lot of the things that you want to gain can be restated as something that you want to lose. And I don't care about there being redundancy or restatement. I only care about that there's something happening in all four quadrants, because that tells me that you moved your mind into that mode of thinking in order to be able to evaluate a situation. So you could say, this is what I really want. I want to gain this and lose this, and I don't want to gain this and I don't want to lose that. That's my control equation. My value proposition is what we call this in a sales kind of situation. All right.
Yeah,
So
I have one, but I did not bring the my notebook that I wrote it on with me. I brought my journal, which is where I should have written it, but I don't mind winging it.
well, I mean, this would be great. And again, I'm not really looking for people to turn in a paper so we can grade
Right.
whatever. I just want to hear that you have the ability to think in these four different ways. And honestly, my greatest desire of all, as far as this is concerned, is that you do this in your head. You don't even need the piece of paper to figure
Right, right.
this is
So
how you think,
so
Right.
what I had put as far as uh the book publishing, so I'm writing two co-authored research book projects. So there's like 24 physicians and researchers. And what the publisher is asking me to do is to start this whole social media presence. And I'm like really resisting that. So as far as guess you could say as far as getting on social media
Okay, as far as
is
social
concerned,
media. Mhm.
right? Like building community and that kind of thing on social
Right.
media.
Specifically regarding this issue or these books.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Right. Because again, whenever we are looking at something on the change grid or, anything having to do with the Oracle itself, we want to be as activity specific as possible. So it's not social media in general. I mean, maybe it is, but
Yeah, it is.
it's
It
usually
is.
social media. But usually it's going to be social media in a particular situation because they want you to run the show. So as far as leading the social media a portion of the project is concerned, so more specific you are, the better, but don't let me
Yeah.
derail you. You go ahead.
So as far as I want to gain,
Uh-huh.
definitely want to gain community and a collaborative community in particular. So, writing for like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, Also want to gain influence, but not in like a I hate those like thought leader, all that kind of nonsense. I don't care about that kind of status,
Mhm.
but definitely the kind of influence where people be willing to listen.
All right. Mhm.
I don't want to lose. Uh, I call it, for me, social media is like a time suck.
Mhm. Yeah, okay. You
That's
just,
why I'm not on it at all. So I don't want to lose sense of freedom. I don't want to lose. I feel autonomy because I think algorithms kind of control people, when, especially they get all these notifications.
mhm.
So I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose sense of myself. I think people get sucked up into that whole uh, social media world and just get caught up and take on uh, uh, an archetype that's not their own because
Yeah,
people build them up. So I don't want to,
yeah, you
uh,
start believing your avatar.
yeah. So I don't want to lose sense of self.
Yeah.
That's quite scary, in fact.
And
To
you started by talking about the time consumption, so you don't want to lose all that time.
yeah, definitely don't want to lose the time. I appreciate not being tethered to technology like it's a third arm.
Okay. All right. Now I just heard a hint of something over here. So, you told us a little bit about what you want to gain and some stuff about what you don't want to lose. But we have these two other quadrants. So, what you don't want to gain what? I don't want to gain what?
I put in fact, I wrote about it in my journal. I don't want to gain, I talk about influence, but I don't want to gain like celebrity status.
All
Like
right.
that would drive me nuts,
Okay. Good, good, good. It also,
if that makes sense.
yeah, it also sounded that you didn't want to gain the need to lug around some piece of technology or to be tied to a piece of technology.
Right. I don't want to gain more work. You
I
know,
don't want to gain more work.
it takes time to, create content and all this kind of stuff. So I don't want to do that.
All right.
I'll outsource that kind of nonsense. I'm not going to do it. But
All right. And
um,
this last quadrant up here, what do you want to lose? What do you want to get rid of, to shed?
the project itself.
Yeah, responsibility.
Exactly, the responsibility for
Right.
the project.
Yeah.
I can see like, in fact, I just got a book on how to outsource this kind of stuff.
Well,
I
and
do,
so,
But
I don't,
yeah, let me,
Brian, didn't you say that there were 24 other people
yes,
in this project?
yes.
Sounds like there's got 24 helpers.
there you
No,
go.
and they don't want to do it.
Right, well,
Well, good. Then that's your first clue.
Yeah, maybe it's
yeah,
something you don't need.
And
right.
so the publisher had asked me to do it because I'm one of the organizers of the project itself.
Mm.
So they kind of asked me to do it. I said, yeah, this will really help your book once it come out. You'll already have community. Not looking to sell per se. You don't sell necessarily research, but you are trying to, get academia and other kinds of communities
Mhm,
involved in it.
mhm, mhm. So how
Yeah.
true would this be if I said that you want to lose the reputation of being the go-to guy, or you
Yeah.
want to lose the, I can't think of any word other than the reputation that they know that they can count on you. I mean, it's
Perfecto.
nice that they can count on you, but you want to lose that's the reputation that brings you these ongoing requests for
Yes.
serving above and beyond.
That's
Uh,
exactly it. I've never been interested in any business venture, any project, and then I've never been interested in being in the forefront. Let me do what I do and I go home. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yet I imagine that when you are sitting at a meeting table, you don't hesitate to chime in.
Oh no, not at all. But I
Right.
don't like to be like
Unfortunately,
forced in
yeah,
the limelight. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
need that status, that title. That's never been my thing at all.
I get that, but that behavior communicates to everybody else that you want to be more involved, that you want to do those kinds of things because obviously you're talking more about it. So you must have the passion, you must have the drive, you must have the whatever, and so it's difficult well, or whenever I hear that someone is the go-to guy and wants to lose the guru kind of position, blah blah blah, it's almost always something that they have earned by default, you know, because of the way that you present yourself, carry yourself, conduct yourself around there. They might be under the impression that you'd be perfectly happy to be the boss of the whole thing.
Well, that's the wrong impression. So I probably should shut up for that.
I'm just
But you know,
saying.
you know what I value? I value quality over quantity. So if my name is on something, I want it to be right. Like it has to be a certain quality, or else I'll just check out. That's why I chime in, because I'm like, look, let's consider this, let's consider this, let's consider these. So if they're getting that impression that I want to run the show from that, then I probably need to either step out of the project or just shut up.
Well, there's, yeah,
No,
Susan
there's
just-
another option. You need to learn to say no.
right. Just say no.
And trust me, nobody likes it. So if you're in this to be liked,
No, definitely that's not my thing. I definitely don't have a problem saying no.
well, then you got to join that 24.
There you go. There you go.
I definitely don't have a problem with saying no, but it is a project that I'm passionate about. So it's in nanomedicine, nanotechnology, and AI. But my chapters are contributing to behavioral adaptations and those kinds of things. So that's something I'm quite passionate about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to take this to a little other step, you know, when we're using this as a tool for coaching clients, one of the things that we do with this, I want to lose quadrant, is very often it's populated with things that fall on people's shoulders. They want to lose that, you know, again, like I said earlier, wanting to be that they're the go-to person, that they can always be counted on, that they'll always, you know, listen to what you have to say, that, you know, you end up having this reputation of being whatever. And one of the things that I like to say to clients who want to lose those things is, how did you end up with them to begin with? Where did this reputation come from? Because everything that, this is true for all of us, everything that we have in our life, if you really think about what I'm going to say, you either created or you're tolerating.
Tolerated, yeah.
And so did you, to a certain degree, Brian, whatever this reality is, rest assured, you had a hand in creating it.
Yeah, because no one else talks up to, like Susan's point, you know, when these meetings are going and no one else is like saying anything. And I'm trying to get this project done. We already had a delay because of the pandemic. So Crown Press Publishing is like, look, can you guys push this thing forward? So I don't have a problem with stepping up and so-called taking a lead. I just don't want all that comes with it.
Well, that's a different problem altogether.
Yeah, can contention management help me?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, and this is kind of like a build on to what Susan was saying, is that these other 23 people or whatever, if you're one of the 24, these other people aren't participating in the level you might want them to, because you're tolerating their lack of involvement. So, you know, there's a lot of management that needs to go on with this quadrant. And almost all of it is how to better manage yourself so you don't continue to perpetuate this reputation, or this, I don't even know what's the word to describe it, this persona.
Yeah.
And you know, don't create it.
People don't like you when you do that.
Yeah, I know.
People don't. I've been through this.
Yeah.
People don't like you when you start saying no to things, or, you know, you got to make a deal, but you'll be better off for it. Trust me.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have a
Mark?
problem with that. But this is the group that, you know, I had to come back to Central America because to put pieces of the puzzle together, that was falling apart. And you know, one of the things that triggered me, and I'm kind of laid back, so I don't get too triggered by anything, but one of the things that triggered me was everyone was wanting me to respond the way that they respond to crises.
Oh, yeah, right.
And that really triggered me, because they're like, this doesn't seem important to you and you're not bothered by it. I said, okay, we need a timeout, Because if I feel like my head's going to explode, then that's saying a lot. And I don't do that. So let's take a time out
Well,
and then I'll come back.
Brian,
Yes.
are these paid positions or are all of this work voluntary?
No, these are paid. They're paid by the World Health Organization and public-private funding for these projects,
Okay.
and as well as the book as well.
So all of the 23 other positions and yours are paid. Okay.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I wonder, Brian, if people are noticing, obviously, your higher standards that you express, that you want it to be right or your name's not going on it. Maybe you've just developed too much trust and these people trust you to take this. It's that control that, you know, your standards ensure a certain level of control. So
It
maybe,
probably is.
yeah,
Yeah.
that,
right. And because your standards are delivering on that control, no one else needs to worry about it because it's being done. You're doing it.
right.
And
And the
see, I hate that. that part I hate.
And
Because I'm
so,
not even the one that I'm one of the organizers, but I'm not the one necessarily that's running it per se. So you have like this whole, you will call him like the CEO. He's the one that gets all the money and then funnel it downward. But he's kind of
but if he
MIA.
sees you as doing the work, then he's good.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm with
exactly.
Susan. Just say no.
Yeah,
Just
you
say
do
no.
really
And
have to, you really have to be able to do this. Now, let me address one thing because this comes up in with me all the time. Um, so you mentioned that because you didn't have the same response or reaction to a situation, they thought that you didn't feel it, get it, whatever.
Hmm.
Okay, that's a complete change grid situation. So a lot of times people end up very far up grid about issues. And so, you know, the emotions they're expressing when they're up grid. So there's lots of anger and there's fear and there's regrets and all this sort of stuff that's all going on up there. And people are feeling very much out of control. They feel literally threatened in some sort of way, perceived challenge very high, ability very low. You guys by now, you know what's going on in this section of the grid. Hyper aware and upgrade awareness is all what's going on. So you can imagine how they are expressing themselves. Again, this is an expressive. We're all the way up here. So for them, it's all emotions and talking about feelings and blah, 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 and having chaotic thinking, just being bombarded, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's them. If you are someone who's learned to manage your own level of tension, either by nature or nurture or taking some classes, you look at a situation from the center of the change grid, maybe shifted slightly out grid if it's something that needs to be taken care of, maybe if it's slightly up grid, if it's a puzzle that needs to be kind of solved, you know, but you're here, you're inside of this green circle. Inside of this green circle, we're far more about logic than we are about emotions. And so we're not going to display these emotions that would match what they're displaying. And that often means they think like, we don't get them or we don't get the issue. We don't understand. And it's like, we understand it better than you understand it. Don't think for 1 second that someone who is heavily under the influence of an emotional response understands much of anything, no matter what they're saying. So, because this is not where logic lives. This is where logic lives. This is where emotion lives. And so these two things don't occupy the same space at the same time. So how do you end up presenting yourself so that you can resonate with them? We have to meet people where they are. So we have to at least be able to let them know that we do understand what they're feeling and give them some insights to let them know that you understand it, that you can see why they're feeling blah, blah, blah. Or I would be feeling the same way were it not for the fact that I know this to be true. So this is what's really going on. We can use that as a bit of a downgrade maneuver, normalize, simplify, add resources for that individual to move them to a healthier place on the grid. So to move them to where you are, you must meet them where they are. But you don't meet them by doing the same screaming, complaining, terrified response. You just need to acknowledge that what they are feeling is something that you at a intellectual place can understand. Emotionally, you understand that that's not helping anybody do anything, to be
Right.
upset about anything. And you got no idea. Well, actually, several of you are counselors and therapists and coaches of one sort or another. So, very often we people come to us who are feeling totally out of control. And this is who we meet. We meet this person that's all emotion and no logic. And they tell us stories, but we don't know whether the story is right or wrong, or to what degree it's accurate, because reality gets distorted as we move away from the center of the change grid. In any direction, reality is becoming distorted. And so, yeah.
I
So,
think that's what they were doing. They were projecting, because no
mhm.
one can ever say my 53 years on earth heard me yell. I just don't go there.
Well,
So,
and I've had
I'm too
clients.
laid back.
Yeah, well, I've had clients say to me, "You don't seem to be taking this very, very seriously."
Hmm.
And I said, "I beg to differ. I'm taking
Right,
this far more seriously
right.
what I'm observing around me. I recognize that those emotions are interfering with taking right action in right time." And so, I'll just kind of let them know. Don't think for one moment that don't understand what's going on. I understand where they are on the change grid better than any of them will ever understand, right? Because we're all tension managers. We know this is to be true. I don't need to join them in order to change the situation. In fact, what do you think would happen if they just keep on enlisting more and more and more people up grid where they are?
Everyone's in a danger zone.
Everyone's in a danger zone, and now nobody is looking at it logically. Only one thing's going to fix this situation, and that is to detach ourselves emotionally, view the situation objectively, and make the right decision based on the information that's really available to us at that
And
time,
how do you meet them where they are?
by acknowledging that you understand why they're feeling the way they're feeling.
I see.
By always
Yeah.
just saying to them, "I understand exactly what you're feeling. Tell me more about that." Let them express it. Let them express it. And acknowledge that you would be in the same place were it not for, that's our transition into the logic. I would be in the exact same space were it not for something I've learned, if it were not for something that I've put together, were it not for. So we meet them where they are. We don't need to say the words, but how about this? Let's say someone's really upset about something. I'm not going to say to them, "I understand exactly how you feel. I'd be upset as well." I'm going to say to them, "I understand exactly how you feel. I'd be upset too." So I want to meet them tonally, but I
Mm.
don't want to meet them with the content of their thoughts. I'm not agreeing with what they're saying.
Mm.
I am simply acknowledging the energy with which they're saying it. And
Got it.
yeah, um, we actually teach this principle in customer service training. And so you kind of go like, well, how does this fit into customer service? Customer service representatives spend almost every day listening to upgrade people moan and groan about something that went wrong with some product or service or experience or whatever. And these people that are this far upgrade are angry, or they're upset, they're frightened about something, they're annoyed, whatever, they're feeling totally out of control, and they decide to vent a lot of that in this direction. Well, a good customer service representative has to be two things: absolutely, completely, and totally detached from whatever it really is that's going on, because they got to fix it. So we need all logic available to them at that point in time. We also have to know that they are, I'm going to say sensitive enough, but I think what I really want is to say they're empathetic enough to be able to say to that person, with the tone of voice being correct, "I understand exactly how you feel. I don't blame you for being upset. I'd be upset too if I was in that situation. But let's take a look at it and see what's going on." What this person needs, first and foremost, is to be validated that their feelings are valid. But
Yeah.
nothing changes if we're just going to have a mutual gripe fest.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
can you now let me tell you, I'm going to take you to the next level so you can see what's going on. Not only do we teach them to meet them where they are, we actually teach people to take whatever it is they're feeling up a notch. So and it's a joke, but it actually is true. We did a lot of training for Disney long ago. And one of the things that we said to Disney is that anytime they hear anyone make a complaint, we want them to escalate the complaint beyond the intensity of the person. So if someone says something like, okay, the example that I gave was uh, someone's on the lazy river at one of Disney's little 2 water park things that they have, and you're the lifeguard, and you hear as someone's going on, they yell up to you, someone's making me unhappy. And then the lifeguard's supposed to go like, who is it? We can't allow that. We want them to kind of take it to an absurd sort of a level, because what they do, what happens when someone does that is now they start to self-correct. And they go like, no, it's not that big of a deal, our head's going to roll, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So you'll actually hear as you try to go above and beyond what this person is saying and feeling, you will hear them automatically self-correct and move themselves down grid. So now,
Interesting.
we don't do it every time. We're just saying that's in the toolbox for people that are trying to manage someone's level of tension when they're too far up grid. And then what you can do, because what happens is if this person's feeling this far upgrade and this customer service representative decides to respond by saying, who the heck do you think you're talking to? You don't get to talk to me that way. Well, now I got 2 people that are upgrade. So that's not useful. It takes a very special person to be an effective customer service representative.
And it helps if you're wearing goofy ears.
It's just stuff some people have to deal with. You got no idea. But I want them to, I think the best customer service representatives are people who are made out of Teflon. Nothing sticks to them. They recognize immediately that they have nothing whatsoever to do with what's causing you to feel the way you feel. They are, in fact, the only hope you currently have of feeling better by the end of that phone call. So we got to hire the right people for a customer service position. We have to train these people and reinforce to them all the time that they're Teflon, none of it is a reflection on them. It's all totally impersonal. So detach themselves. So being able to detach themselves from a situation is really the best skill that they could ever develop. Thoughts about that?
So would you call this meeting them where they are?
Always.
The way that you described, would you call it mirroring or something to that extent?
Well, we are mirroring their tonality. This is something for those of you who aren't versed in neurolinguistic programming. In neurolinguistic programming, it is suggested that what you are gathering from someone, what the information you're gathering is coming to you through 3 pathways. There's a physical pathway. We talked about this, I think, once before. Things that you are doing with your body or things you see another person doing with their body is communicating information to you. So if their gestures are wild and they're pointing their finger, you don't need to hear a single word in order to start picking up useful data about what's going on. Well, then you get into the tone of voice. You might not be able to hear their exact words, but they're upgrid, they're upset about something. And then the words themselves do have some meaning, but it's actually a rather minor contributor compared to the information we're gathering just based on what we are seeing physically and noticing tonally about what's going on with that person. So I most definitely want to match their tonality, because in all likelihood, I'm not physically there. And if I was physically there, I don't know that if they're jumping up and down and pounding their fists or all that, I don't know that that's a behavior I would need to reinforce. But I can meet them tonally where they are and say, I really understand why you're upset. I'd be upset too. But let's take a look at this. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Got to get the person to come down grid. I cannot help them. I could do an intervention, but I can't really get to the root of their problem and fix their problem until they give me what I need in order to even figure out who the hell they are. So I don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. So, all right. Anyway, so hopefully as we do these little tangents, you guys are recognizing that there is some real value in the practical application of these tension management principles. If you were to detach yourself from any situation you're encountering, you should be able to figure out very easily what's going on with someone else's level of productive tension. And obviously the best thing for you is to make sure that you never get sucked into anybody else's drama. So matching their tonality is a conscious, deliberate thing that you are doing. You are a performing artist in that matter. You're not feeling what they're feeling, but you're just acknowledging, I can meet you where you are. I understand what you're feeling. You know, I would feel the same way given the circumstances, blah, blah, blah. You can even apologize, just not too often. So usually, well, because otherwise you become an apology factory and that's not going to help the outcome. So instead we just say, certainly you want to be able to apologize for the experience they've had while you're at the same time appreciating them for bringing this to your attention. There's some good housekeeping that has to be done in a good customer service interaction as well. And a lot of it has to do with protecting the longer term relationship with that client. So that's what you're saving the relationship. So there's some housekeeping stuff that needs to be done there. But if you just apologize and apologize and apologize from the very beginning, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Your apology means less and less and less with each time it's uttered.
I
So
think I will have to practice this some more, like the whole
yeah,
matching
right.
with the matching the tonality. 'Cause I'm just remember, I lived in a lot of Asian cultures, right?
Uh-huh.
Even my seafood and martial arts. When someone triggered him, I was just astounded by the fact that he just wasn't moved by it. Like he used to always come to me and whisper in my ear, "Too many minds." Like when I get, like, "Oh, I didn't do the move right," or that kind of thing. And he would always say, "You're focusing on too much." But it seems like when, parents will come and yell at him or something, he was just quite quiet about it and
Mhm.
just,
Yeah.
nothing really got him. And I
Well,
think
and
I kind of took on
yeah, and
that.
keep in mind that there are several schools of thought, several different training programs out there about customer service and customer experience management. And one of them does say for you to just take the abuse and don't give any interaction whatsoever, because sooner or later the person's going to tire themselves out or run out of things to say and repeat over and over again. And then you can say, I'd be happy to help you with that. But it ends up feeling very detached.
Well,
Like,
Mm.
Sensei, wouldn't that help a Sensei? I mean, wouldn't you think that he would want to be seen as the ultimate calm, but I'll kick your butt kind of guy? Like,
Yeah, because see, he does it like he's not. I don't think he takes abuse per se because he'll say things and you'll be left to think about it. Like my mom was the same
yeah.
way.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
her way was using power words. Like she'll say something like, "Do you consider yourself to be a smart man?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm quite smart." She's like, "I wonder would a smart man do what you just did and walk away?"
Oh, brilliant.
And then I'm like left
Ouch.
thinking like, am I? Well, maybe I'm not so smart. Like, what is she talking about? So then I come to her. It's like, hey, what did you mean by that?
And she would say, you'll figure it out.
Exactly,
Go for a walk.
exactly,
You'll figure it out. Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah, but my point is there are multiple ways we can go about managing someone's level of tension. To the situation that Brian brought up, though, I thought those people, you just meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Because you don't have us. I think one great point that is included in Anja's feedback there is that he's a sensei. He has a brand, and so
Yeah.
he has to be very, let's say, selective about what
Hmm.
methods he's going to employ and when, because he's not going to be able to convince you that he has a pathway to Zen if he is unable to manifest Zen in really chaotic moments.
Right.
So I can
Exactly.
kind of see like he needed to set aside the skill set I just described and just do what he was doing because you know, he's got that brand to kind of do. Where in this customer service kind of thing, I would say to the client, do you want your customers to view you as someone who is not only responsive to your needs, but feels pain that they have caused you any kind of inconvenience or trouble? You know, how do you want your customers to in the long run view you as that company? If it's detached and you're just a number and oh well, get over it, well, what does that do for instilling loyalty in someone? Versus saying to them, when you bring something up, in fact, I would say to customer service people, just say to them, just one moment, I need to pull out a critical incident report so I make sure I don't get anything wrong. And then you'll really hear the person go like, well, it's not that big of a deal. My mistake. You know, well, I'm happy to fill this out for you. You know, we take every complaint seriously, and this is sounds like the kind of one we want to escalate all the way to the highest part of the company. And then they do. They'll start saying like, no, 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 that's, you know, no, I'm, you know, I was just upset. You know, it's like, all right, fine, fine, take these.
Feeling better already.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Bring
Yeah.
out your dead.
Bring out your
Yeah.
dad, but I'm not dead yet.
When will you be back? Oh,
I'm
he won't be until
I'm
Thursday.
feeling much better.
Exactly. But I
Yeah.
think to Susan's point, what she said in the chat there, I need to have a conversation with like this head guy and say, look, I don't want to do either, you know, these things where I'm thrusted into the forefront. It's just really energetically, since I'm quite keen on managing my physical, mental, emotional energy, it's too much for me. I don't want to have to do it because then I feel like I have to, as of late, like uh, double down on the recovery strategy. And whenever I get that triggered, that means that the stimulus coming at me is too much. So that's kind of my trigger point. So I don't like being in a limelight in general, but now that I'm kind of thrust out there with these high standards, I'm not going to change my standards for someone. And I'm
Right.
certainly not going to confront people and make it a, you know, you have to do what I do kind of thing. So I think the best thing for me is to just be a participant. Let me do what I do, but I don't need to be in the forefront. Not, and I won't. I don't need to be thrust into that because it's too much for me.
Well, and that's a wonderful awareness to have about oneself. So as long as you always, because here will be the test. The next time you're sitting at a meeting, what's the chances that someone is going to come up with something and you are desperately going to want to say something, but you're going to hold yourself back?
Yeah, but I could do that. I definitely can hold myself back, especially after I set the parameters. So like I'm quite stubborn in that way. Once I set the
All right, good, good, good.
parameters,
Because that again, for me,
it's
the
done.
whole thing, I just wanted to make sure that everyone was, you know, realizing is that a great deal of the time, the things that you want to lose are part of your reality because of something you did. So you either invited those things into your reality, or you're tolerating those things being in your reality. And as much as you want to get rid of them, there's a price to be paid for getting rid of them.
Yeah, and
And
it's
so,
probably more of the creation side
yeah,
because of the high standards, and it's probably more like, oh yeah, you know that guy from the old commercials, Mikey. Let's get Mikey to try it,
Mikey will
right?
like anything. He'll eat
Mikey
anything.
likes everything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like,
Exactly.
oh, Brian has these standards. We'll get Brian to do it because no one else really stepped up. But I don't have a problem with whatever price that is to say I'm not doing
All right, good, good, good. We'll be very interested to hear how the next meeting goes with you.
it. It'll be coming up Wednesday.
Excellent. Good, good, good. All right. So anyway, I wanted to move on to one more thing. We only have 4 minutes for until our official kind of time. But do you guys feel like you're comfortable enough with this 4 aspects of control little exercise that you could use it to get your thoughts together? Yes,
Yeah.
would be my goal. Good. Because
Yeah.
what I want to do is say, well, we also have a little technique we do when we get to the obstacles. So yeah, you know all the stuff that you want. The desired situation has been fleshed out in vivid detail. Now the question becomes, what's stopping you from getting there? Remember, if you know where you're at and you know where you want to go, the question becomes, why aren't you there already? And the answer is because there is some obstacle or set of obstacles, real or imagined, that are in your way. So I'm going to say that again so you guys feel the whole range of things. If you're not where you want to go, it is because there is some obstacle or set of obstacles, real or imagined, that are in your way. And until those are identified and dealt with, what's your chances of reaching your desired outcome?
Not great.
Not very great at all. So just keep in mind, one or more obstacles, real or imagined. So there's obstacles that are in reality, obstacles of fact, and there's also obstacles of the mind. And we have to deal with those in two very different ways. When we get to solutions, you deal with obstacles of the mind, obviously, in a very different way than practical obstacles, which means you've got to get whatever it is that it needs to be taken care of, because it's real. It's real. All right. So let's talk about what these obstacles are. Now, generally, when you're walking the path, we only ask you to answer, question. It's one question, but you phrase it different ways if you want to have some creativity. The bottom question is, what's stopping you from getting there? What has stopped you from getting there? So you could say, well, what do you need to overcome? What's in the way? There's creative ways to say it, but the bottom line is, what has stopped you from getting there? Or what do you think is stopping you from getting there? So that's that. Now, if we can get someone to just take that step, great things will come out of it. Just answer that question. I promise you, great things will come out of the awareness that you have when you start to identify what obstacles are. But we do have a deeper dive we can go for. And for whatever reasons, I want to take this beginning program and turn it into an advanced program, but here goes. So the reason why these obstacles fall into 4 different categories. So let me show you what those 4 categories are. These are the root causes of human struggle and failure. Root causes of human struggle and failure. 4 categories of them, and they're the uns in the middle. We'll talk about the words on other sides when we really do put it all together. I just wanted to show you a simple little tool here. So your obstacles could be obstacles of awareness. There is something you do not know, or you do not know correctly. So it could be an accuracy element. It could simply be an absolute awareness element. You just didn't know, or what you thought you knew was wrong, or what you knew was outdated or whatever. But there could be an issue about awareness, what you know is going on, what you know to be true. There could be an issue with ability to do something. The reason why you're not moving forward is because you are unable to do something that is required in order for you to actually move forward. So there is some lack of ability to do something. You just can't do something. Ability also can include resources. So you might be able to do it as far as skills are concerned, but you're not able to do it because there's insufficient time, there's insufficient staffing, there's insufficient whatever the resource happens to be. So ability to do something is both a personal question. Do I have the ability to do it? And then the other one is the ability to do it based on resources. We have had very advanced discussions with the circle around this issue of ability. And someone said that if you don't have any resources, you might say it's affecting your ability, but maybe what it's really affecting is the possibility of something being done. And I think there's great merit in thinking about that as well. So not having enough resources might have an impact, but if I have none whatsoever, it might be a deal breaker from the very get-go. It could also be a willingness issue. So you might be aware and you might be able, you just don't want to do it. So there's an unwillingness issue. And the last one is that there's a mismatch between you and the task. at hand. You're simply not suitable for whatever it is that needs to be done. You're not the right choice, the best choice, the whatever choice. Obviously, Brian has firmly established himself as being suitable under all circumstances. He is fully aware, fully able, fully suitable, but now we've got an issue going on with unwilling. If I was his leader, I'd be spending all my time getting his willingness kicked up into gear so I can say, I know it's a lot, but the reason why you can do so much is because we need so much. The movement, the cause, I could get you totally geeked about what doing it because I see it as being a willingness issue. There's no issue of unsuitability. There's no issue of a lack of ability. There's no issue around awareness. Your only roadblock is about willingness. Willingness. You want to own that, Brian, or something you want to throw?
Yes, in fact, I happen to think that's how the conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
Because think about it, these are government programs, right?
Yeah.
So your funding is limited, your resources are limited. So whoever you have involved has a role, although they haven't expressed
Right.
an identified role. So I think that's how the conversation.
So then let's for a moment put you into the leader role, and you've got all these other people who aren't doing whatever's going on. Are they not doing it because they're unaware of what needs to be done and how to do it and all the, well, the how is kind of able, but what needs to be done to the degree it needs to be done? Is there an awareness issue? Is that why they're not stepping up? Are they lacking in some sort of ability to do what needs to be done? Is that why they're not stepping up? Are they simply not suited for the task at hand? Or is the bottom line that they're unwilling to do it if for no other reason than you are?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think that you'll find this very useful. Again, this comes from pride-based leadership, but when it comes to the black step, the obstacles fall into two different types. There's obstacles of reality and obstacles of the mind, so practical realities, and then realities between your ears or issues between your ears. And inside of each one of those, there are issues of awareness, ability, willingness, and suitability. So are they unaware, unable, unwilling, unsuitable, or some combination? Oh, and by the way, last thing, and then I'll be I'll finish the call. Keep in mind that unwillingness can be a standalone issue. You can be fully aware, fully able, well suited, but you just don't want to do it. That's very different than unwilling being in a secondary position. In a secondary position, it would go like this. Because I'm unaware of what's going on, don't be surprised that I'm also unwilling, because I don't know what's going on. So, but my unwillingness is secondary. It's not the primary cause. My primary issue is I'm unaware. Don't be at all surprised if I'm unable to do something, that I'm also going to appear to be unwilling to do it. So, but it's a secondary unwillingness. And if I'm unsuitable for it, by all means, don't be shocked to find out I'm also unwilling to do it. I know I'm not right for this. So yeah, I'm unwilling to do it, but the unwillingness is too much, is a secondary position. The reason why I'm emphasizing that is because a leader might come in there and work only on working with people's feeling of mission and purpose and all that, working at making them all willing. But what's the point of motivating a whole crowd of people who are truly unable, unaware, and unsuitable?
Right. I see that a lot in the different hierarchies.
Yep. Yeah, so we have to deal with the underlying issue, the true root cause. And so what I'd like to do on our next time together is focus on these root causes of human struggle and failure and see how they apply when we are reaching that obstacle step of the path of self-discovery. So yep, so that's where we're at. You guys, you show up and you stay, so that tells me you're finding this enjoyable, but I also don't want to, I don't know, bore you, take it too far, whatever.
I have to say, in every second of these sessions, I have never been bored.
Oh, well, good.
Not even a second.
How nice. My life's work is not boring.
It is not. It is
Definitely.
compelling, and I've enjoyed every minute.
Well, good. All right. Well, thank you for that. All right. So have yourselves a wonderful holiday tomorrow, Brian. I don't know how that's going to play out in Guatemala, but whatever. And
have a beer
yeah, there's got to be beer. Is there beer in Guatemala?
and light
Oh,
a
yeah.
match.
Oh, yeah.
Light a match and throw it up.
Do they have ice?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
definitely. So I watched some fireworks on the
Ice and the
telly.
internet.
Exactly.
There it is. There it is. Okay, everyone,
Bye, everybody.
take care. Bye for now.
Thanks again.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.